Hello, Hellboy fans out there. Toward the Max Extreme here.
And Ghost Hunter Dave.
And together we paranormally investigate as IMPERIUS REX.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Nice tie-in. Figured, let's take a look at Hellboy, because the time is right for Hellboy. We're coming up on the 25th anniversary of the character. We have a brand spanking new movie coming out. And I believe BPRD is wrapping up this year too.
Now you may be thinking to yourself, hey, haven't you two already done this? And the answer is kind of.
That's right.
We did like an all-encompassing Hellboy parts 1 and 2 in our first season.
Like our 4th episode or something. Very early look at IMPERIUS REX.
Going back into it, personally, I thought it was bad. And we could always do better. And personally, I would like to rectify some of the things I said in that episode.
Good.
Because I caught a lot of internet flack about it.
Oof. So we're going to do this justice. We're going to go from the top down or the bottom up, depending on which way you're oriented here. And we are going to do a deep dive on Hellboy. And then we're just going to see where that road takes us after we finish out his series. Maybe we'll jump into some more Mignola-verse titles.
Betcha.
But let's not waste any more time, Troy.
Okay.
So, created on a whim by Mike Mignola in 1993 for Dark Horse Comics, Hellboy was just a glimmer in his eye as he sketched up a weird brute demon creature for like, was it like a Comic-Con type of pamphlet?
I think it was Salt Lake City Con or something like that. That was it.
That was it. And he called him Hellboy because he thought it was funny.
Yep.
He had a chuckle out of it.
Right.
And who would have thought that it would have stuck after all these years? Probably the most notable Dark Horse comic character.
Yeah, I would even independent, I would even say. Independent character.
Yeah, I mean...
Because nothing else is ringing a bell now that I've said that.
Mike Mignola had created a name for himself for his work at DC and Marvel.
Yep.
But he wanted to try his hand at something creator-owned, and he came up with this Hellboy character. So he was still kind of fleshing out, you know, all the ins and outs of him. So he asked John Byrne, who was a notable writer at that time, to help him kind of craft a story, probably do a lot of the dialogue and actual like verbiage. As he put forth a 4-issue series called Seed of Destruction, which explored Hellboy's first adventures, not chronologically, but the first adventures that we had with the character. As he investigates a plague of frogs, a resurrected monk, and possible ties to the Armageddon of mankind.
A lot going on in those first few issues. You can also see, too, in retrospect, going back through the series, the John Byrne issues are way more heavily dialogued than everything. Yeah. And Mignola's art is even a tad... Well, I wouldn't even say a tad different. It's different. It's still his style, but he's full on, still coming from like DC and Marvel, where it's like everything's pretty detail oriented.
And if you compared Hellboy in Hell, his most recent, to his first Seed of Destruction, you'd think like they're from two different artists. Yeah. So the way we're going to cover this is the way that Dark Horse has recently re-released the Hellboy series through these omnibus, these softcover omnibuses, omnibi. There's a variety of ways to read Hellboy, obviously. There's these, most recent, nice work.
Thank you.
There's also the beautiful library editions that they put out before that. These are fantastic. My preferred way of reading, but the chronology is different.
Yes.
And then there's just the normal, like, you know, the standard trades. But if you have never read the character and you just want to do a dive into what he's all about,
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend the Omnibuy right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, Seed of Destruction, our first introduction to Hellboy, his universe, and the overarching plot line that leads not only to the conclusion of Hellboy's own title, but also threads through virtually every Mignolaverse title to date. So this one is essential.
Yes.
It's also, as we said, a bit more of a dense read compared to every book since. And part of this, largely in part to John Byrne as the co-writer of the first 4 issues.
Mm-hmm.
After that, Mignola kind of finds his footing with the character.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've heard, Byrne kind of cut him loose. He's like, you don't need me.
Yeah.
You've got this. And I think Mignola was a little worried about, telling the story solo.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as he goes solo, I think it improves dramatically.
Yeah. It becomes more of an atmospheric book. He's not narrating what he's doing, you're just seeing what he's doing, and you get, atmosphere here and there, where it just fills in the gaps.
Right, yeah. There's no longer these long monologues. And in place of that, he just lets kind of the art and the atmosphere speak for itself.
Yeah.
And nobody does atmosphere like Mignola does.
Right.
So as I was reading or rereading Seed of Destruction, I was thinking, I kind of want to have them, re-release it with a bunch of the text just obliterated and just see if it reads more like a traditional Hellboy book that way. Because there is a lot of narration. Hellboy straight up narrates a lot of it.
Yeah.
And he's got this kind of detective noir style of narration.
Yeah.
And this is coming right off of the success of Sin City for Dark Horse. So I wonder if that might have had something to do with it, kind of like the Marv Hard Goodbye type of storytelling. Because Hellboy is very much like a Marv character. He's a big lug who gets angry sometimes and all that.
Yeah.
And it reads very much like that. You could pick them up and read them side by side, and they would almost feel like they're in the same universe.
Right. What Hellboy is like in the beginning is more like the gruff, almost like private eye detective of a pulpy film, where it turns into more of a blue collar, he's an guy on the job.
Yeah, he's an everyman.
Yeah.
So the story, if you don't know it already or haven't seen the first film, which actually is a pretty solid adaptation of Seed of Destruction. I've heard Mike has some gripes with it, but I don't know.
Wasn't he on set for it?
Yes, I think he was there. I don't know if he just didn't want to be tapping Del Toro on the shoulder and being like, he wouldn't do that. The Hellboy character is a little off. He seems more like an angsty teen than the cool, laid-back dude that he is in the comics.
Right.
But they hit all the major plot points and do a pretty solid job of depicting it. Especially the Rasputin stuff and the Ogdru Jahad up in the sky.
Yeah.
Love that.
Right.
So it's set during World War II, or at least it kicks off during then. The Nazis have enlisted the mad monk Rasputin to help turn the tide of war by using his occult magic.
Yep.
And that results in the unexpected transportation of baby Hellboy from Hell to Earth, where he's met by a group of soldiers accompanied by paranormal investigator Trevor Broom, future head of the BPRD.
Yes.
So, thinking that the experiment failed, the Nazis disperse, and Rasputin retires to a secluded mountain temple to meditate beside the mummified remains of an ancient tentacled creature, the spawn of the Ogdru Jahad, which is...
What?
7 demons.
Oh, I feel like you left me a little open-ended there.
Sorry. we're going fast here. There's a lot to cover. 7 dragons imprisoned for centuries outside of time and space, and they once ruled the world.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, I thought so. Rasputin's own goal was to unleash the Ogdru Jahad and bring about the end of the world, and he was secretly relying on Hellboy to usher this in.
Yes.
So, nearly 50 years later, Hellboy is beckoned by an elderly Trevor Broom now, his adoptive father.
Yep.
And he's warned of an approaching darkness, a plague of frogs. He tells Hellboy of his recent travels into the mountains as part of the Cavendish expedition, where they found the sacred temple and unknowingly released Rasputin and the creature, I think they call it the Sadhu Hem. and it's bad news. So before Trevor can give any more details, he is killed by a monstrous frogman.
Yes, he is.
Very unceremoniously killed.
Yeah. That always catches me off the guard because, for whatever reason, I always think he sticks around longer than he does. But there's like flashbacks here and there where you see him again.
Oh yeah, he's fully fleshed out after his death through like tie-ins and stuff.
First issue.
Done. Like 3 pages and he's out.
Little suckers all over him. And it's like, sick.
Yep. And Hellboy doesn't seem too broken up about it.
No.
That's the one thing where it really kind of... That's a part where I feel the movie did a little bit better than the comic did. Right. On making him like this fatherly figure. Yeah. And in this he's like, yeah, Broom's dead. I guess clean it up.
That stinks.
Yeah. So from there, Hellboy fights the frog, kills it, and then rounds up a team, gets a team together to go investigate this old dilapidated mansion, Cavendish Hall. So these are the men that Broom went on the expedition with, and they are a family that's apparently cursed. 9 generations of the family have died, believing there was something calling to them from the top of the world. So they've gone on these just crazy expeditions. Right. They never turn out well, but they keep going. You gotta give them that.
But it will this time.
That's right. As good as something like this could possibly turn out, I guess. So Hellboy, Liz Sherman, a pyrokinetic, and Abe Sapien, Fishman. Go to investigate this old house, finding more frog creatures, which are the transformed Cavendish brothers, and their expedition guide. And Rasputin himself is there too. So Rasputin's hoping to unleash the Ogdru Jahad with the help of Hellboy and Liz Sherman's pyrokinetic energy. But luckily, Abe Sapien gets possessed by the spirit of a Cavendish.
Yeah, it's like the first Cavendish. Like Elijah.
Elihu.
Elihu. It's a name that shouldn't exist. It doesn't look, It looks like it should be Elias, but it's not. It's annoying to me.
It could be a typo that everyone just went along with. And Mike was like, guess it's a name. Possesses Abe. Abe throws a spear, a fisherman's spear.
Good old harpooning.
Exactly. Just gets Rasputin right in the old breadbasket. Right. And then Hellboy is able to just knock his block off, and that's that.
He punches him so hard he turns into a skeleton.
One of 2 times something hits something so hard it explodes into bones in this episode. And right before Hellboy smashes him to bits, Rasputin's like, if you do this, you're throwing away any chance at learning your true destiny. Right. And Hellboy's like, I'm good. Yep.
Skeleton.
Yeah. You've been skeleton.
I boned you!
So what do you think? What do you think of the first 4-issue outing of Hellboy?
It's a fun... Even though we said it was a little bit more dense than the rest of it, I still like it a lot. Yeah. It does a lot to set up what is coming that we've already said. Rasputin is here for a long time, even though he's been boned. And it introduces everybody who's like super interesting, like Liz and Abe. Sets up an awesome Nazi occult thing, which I love.
I do too.
It's great.
Yep. So a couple weird points that I thought at the very beginning, where the American soldiers discover Hellboy, baby Hellboy. Yeah. They're accompanied by the Torch of Liberty. Right. This like almost Captain America-esque superhero who we never see again in all of the Mignola titles. There's a ton. If you can see them, there's a bunch. He's never brought up again. We have a comic on the aliens that appear in this. Right. How have they not done like a 6-issue mini on the Torch of Liberty?
I don't have any idea.
Make it happen, man.
Because even later on in the series, they bring up Lobster Johnson, who I think is like a facsimile of the same kind of hero. Yeah. But doesn't Hellboy get the Torch of Liberty's gun?
Yeah, he says he gives him the gun.
I don't know.
Never came up again, I guess.
There's still time, I suppose.
Yeah, I would love to see a Torch of Liberty miniseries.
He gets just taken out by Lobster Johnson.
Yes. Feel the claw. Another interesting point, Abe Sapien is disguised in, like, those, like, Groucho Marx, like, nose and eyes and fake beard.
You take off the glasses and a beard is attached to them?
Yes.
Yeah.
While Hellboy is walking around fully revealed as Hellboy.
Right.
It's like, Fishman's too hard to take, but you can take this giant, towering red demon.
I don't know. It was a different time, man.
I guess so. And speaking of Abe, I do like that they call out right in this that he feels a kinship to the Frogmen, which is something that's later explored in Abe's solo series and the BPRD miniseries going forward with, like, the Plague of Frogs arc. They're investigating this connection between Abe and the Frogmen.
I have yet to dive into BPRD, but every time I reread Hellboy, I have the real hankering to go and dive in. But it's so daunting.
It's good, though. It's a quick read.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of the plot lines with the frogs are explored in the BPRD series.
Awesome.
Which are some of my favorite stuff in the Mignola verse. And then we also have, as we mentioned before, the weird alien guys monitoring the Ogdru Jahad.
Yeah.
Which is one of the longest running mysteries, I feel like, of the Mignola-verse. And recently they did do a mini-series where they fleshed it out a little bit more. I think it was called The Visitor, How and Why He Stayed. And it explains who that alien was. Maybe not this one, it's the one in Conquer a Worm that they find in the castle. Okay. And they give his whole backstory. And it's pretty interesting. But again, it doesn't give you all the answers. It doesn't give you most of the answers. Damn it. Just enough to kind of flesh it out more.
All right.
But overall, I love the atmosphere of this book. I feel like it's unlike any other comic that was out there at that time. Yep. With, you know, so many just insert panels of statues or castles or animals. Right. It does such a great job. In those dark, like, quiet moments, like, that pacing is so much more effective than overly abundant text. Yes. Like, you don't need everything spelled out for you. Sometimes the picture can say so much more than a good description can.
You betcha.
So that gives us our first look at Hellboy, demon from hell, transported to Earth by Rasputin to bring about the apocalypse, raised by American soldiers, recruited to the BPRD to investigate and patrol supernatural events across the globe. All the elements are in place. And with the initial setup out of the way, Hellboy is now free to evolve into what we know and love today. So from there, we move on to a short story. It was spread out over some Dark Horse Presents, I think. And this was Mike's first chance at showing what he can do solo. Yep. So this is The Wolves of St. August.
Yeah, this is the first Hellboy story where Byrne is not a part of anymore. Mignola's taken over the entire reins on this carriage. It originally came out in an 8-page serial format installments in Dark Horse Presents, and actually won a Harvey Award in '96.
I really like this short.
Me too.
It feels like a good episode of The X-Files.
Yes.
Where it's just like a Monster of the Week type of thing. Yep. They go and investigate like this old ancient village that's been kind of plagued by werewolves. And all these little creepy touches he puts on it, like the haunted villagers. Yeah. And how the priests are killed off as they come in and try to convert this old abbey there. Yes. And then the werewolf himself is fantastic. Yes. This ghostly guy that just cuts his skin off and fillets himself into this giant bear of a wolf. Is great.
I really enjoy the way Mignola draws the wolf. I guess I'm like, that's a good wolf.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a brute.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So we get a great setup where you get like some mythology and some really creepy atmosphere, Mignola atmosphere, and then it just ends up in this Hellboy-style slugfest with a big werewolf. Right. It also has the amazing little girl werewolf ghost. Yes. Which is chilling. Right. And we get our first look at Kate Corrigan, I believe her name is, who becomes the like the head of the BPRD.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, this is her first field outing. Okay. And their relationship back and forth, where Hellboy's almost like a mentor to her, and she's kind of nervous being on her first trip out. Right. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that relationship because like Hellboy being out on the field so much, but he brought over an expert in whatever he's dealing with. Yeah. I like that back and forth.
And this one ends with the standard Hellboy ending where the monster's defeated and Hellboy essentially just wipes his hands and says, like, okay, that's that. Which is like a staple for the Hellboy shorts going forward.
Yeah.
It's like, once the fight's out of the way, like, all right, we're done. So next up in the reading order is the Chained Coffin, which gives us our first real glimpse into Hellboy's creation. He returns to East Bromwich, which is the site of his first appearance on Earth back in WW2, and has a dream detailing a renounced witch's last days as she pleads with her children from her deathbed to protect her from the devil, whom she made a pact with in her youth.
Yes.
So the devil,
a wild thing in her younger years.
She was a treat. The devil then appears, kills her children, and returns to hell with the woman so that she may go on to bear him a child, of which is Hellboy.
Yes.
So that's his origin.
Yeah.
Like, for the longest time, I felt like we didn't really know it, but it's pretty straightforward. That's what it is.
Yeah. They do elaborate on it farther down the line, where you get more on the mother's side.
Yeah.
A lot more. And even some more on the father's side, too.
Yep.
But I was actually shocked that this did come so early. That they did a Hellboy origin. I'm like, oh, I don't think we needed it, really.
That quick. Yeah, it's actually that quick. And in like 9 pages or something, it's a pretty short read. Yeah.
And I also like, too, that it's a letter that he's recounting of his experience that he writes to Abe.
Yeah, Abe's just reading it.
Right.
And by the end of it, Abe falls asleep. It's like, Christ, Abe, he's pouring out his heart and soul. At least try to stay awake for it.
I really like that ending, though, because I love the end of the letter where he's like, I'm going to try to forget about this. I heard there's a Mothman there. I would really like to see a Mothman. And then Abe dreams of fish.
Yep.
And that's the end. And I was like, I love that little period at the end of that sentence.
That's like the perfect Mignola style of just like this bluntness, this almost out of place bluntness where you're like, that's it? I like it.
Oh, you were done. Great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Next up in our Hellboy reading order is Wake the Devil, which is our second long story arc involving a resurrected vampire, the return of Project Ragnarok, and a deeper look into Hellboy's destiny as the Beast of the Apocalypse.
Yes. So what do you listeners and viewers out there think of Hellboy? If you want this conversation to continue, you can join us on our Patreon for more in-depth coverage of other things, such as an ongoing book club that we are doing, as well as a twice-monthly podcast that me and Dave also do.
That's right.
But until next time, I've been Toward the Max Extreme.
And I'm Ghost Hunter Dave.
And this has been Imperius Rex. We'll see you next time.
Imperius Rex, 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 Imperius Rex.